Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may find yourself in the world, and welcome, as promised, to the 360 show. Finally, we're here. I know it took us a long time, but we're going to be having some fun together every second week on a Tuesday morning. Afternoon for some people in Asia, I know, and early morning for some people in the West. But we'll wing it as we go along. Welcome, and I want to introduce you to my team here. We've got the very sharp heads at the back, the engineers, and we have our night watchman, Mr. Lungi. Casual stuff, a lot of serious cricket stuff. We'll be having some fun. There will be some competitions along the way. We'll be covering everything in 4 segments. We'll be starting with the new ball, where we'll just sort of touch base about life in general. We'll move on to key partnerships, where I'll be interviewing someone famous, someone probably clever, some of the cricketing geniuses around the world, pretty much anyone. And I would like to hear your comments about that as well, who we want to be hearing about. Then we'll move on to quick singles, some quick fire questions between Lungi and myself and you guys. That's where you interact with us. And last but not least, the Fair Play Super Over, where we'll be chatting about serious cricket stuff, covering the news, and analysing some of the cricketing events around the world. But no further ado, let's start off with the new ball. Life in general. Lungi, welcome to the party, my night watchman.
Thanks, Abbas. A pleasure to be your night watchman. But yeah, let's get straight into the new ball. You've just been on holiday.
I have. Yeah, life's good. It's intense with three children, but it's everything is going well, and it's fantastic to be here in Pretoria and to be interacting with everyone out there. I recently went to Switzerland with my wife. We've been married for 10 years. It's our 10-year anniversary. Can you believe it? It absolutely flew by, which means that I've been having a lot of fun, Lungi. We went on my first skiing trip of my life. It was quite scary, to say the least. We went to a place called Saas-Fey, which we only found out 3 days later was not the most ski friendly for a starter, for an amateur or beginner. And I very quickly realized that I was in a place of uncomfort or discomfort in a way, you know.
I'm going to ask why would you go skiing of all things? Like why, in the middle of summer?
It's Danielle's idea, my wife. My wife took me skiing. We were never allowed to ski while I was playing cricket. And I know most cricketers around the world in their contracts, it's actually part of the contractual agreement where you're not allowed to do adventure sports. So skiing was one of them. And I definitely figured out why. It's dangerous. It's one of the most dangerous sports I've ever done. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love moving around. I love going at pace. But going down the slopes, the red slope specifically at Saas-Fey, there's some big drop-offs there. And if you get your turns wrong, you actually go down hard. So very dangerous sport, but I loved it.
Would you say you were more nervous skiing than you were facing Glenn McGrath or Shane Warne?
Not really McGrath. I'd say maybe someone like Akhtar maybe or Sean Tate. Warnie was intimidating. Talking about Warnie, rest in peace. Obviously, we'll all miss him. But yes, I'd say skiing is much worse, to be honest. But Akhtar was right up there.
How fast were you going?
I'm not sure. It feels a lot faster than it is. I saw some of the videos of me skiing. I look like I'm going in reverse mode, in slow-mo. But believe me, when you lose a bit of control and your skis actually point down the slope, you very quickly pick up momentum. And then it's all about turning. And the slope is very steep, especially when you talk about red. Luckily, I never arrived in a black slope, but the red slopes were very tricky there in Saas-Fey.
Well, and then you came back, obviously. Just for those who don't know, just remind us which football team you support.
Yeah, I know we've got a guest coming in our next segment called the Key Partnerships, which is unfortunately also a very big football fan of the team that actually beat my team. But we'll talk about that in a short while. I am a Man United supporter, unfortunately, for now. But die-hard fan. When we win or lose, we stay confident and keep backing our boys. But 7-0 was a bit harsh. I was confident after that first half, only 1-0 down. I thought we dominated most of the half. But the man I'm going to interview will have a different point of view, so we'll hear from him soon.
I actually missed the game, so I saw Twitter reactions. Can you tell me what happened?
luckily for me, it was 1-0 down. It was around 7:30 p.m. South African time, so it was bedtime for my kids. I went to put them to bed, and then I heard my phone started buzzing and going crazy. And with my girl, a little girl in my arms, the two boys in bed, I was looking with my one eye to see what the banners are with the WhatsApps coming through, and I just saw 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, and I thought the guys were joking. Needless to say, I quickly had a look at on the TV as soon as my little girl passed out as well, and 7-0, 7-0 Liverpool against Man United. It's not something you really want to talk about too much.
Well, there's someone who will want to talk about it, obviously. Tell us about this first key partnership, because it's a key segment, and there's going to be some interesting personalities from sport, cricket, entertainment. But this opening partnership, who and why?
Yeah, our next segment is called the Key Partnerships. So every week I'll be bringing someone on, cricket players, cricket analysts, famous whoever, and I'll hear from your comments. I'll wait for your comments to see who you want to hear from as well. But our very first one, the engineer, the mastermind, and the big man behind the SA20, none other, and the biggest Liverpool supporter, Graeme Smith. Graeme, welcome and thanks for joining us.
I must say thank you. Well, firstly, thanks for having me. I feel truly honoured to be your first guest. I mean, out of the array of people you could have chosen, thank you for thinking about me. But
you're always the first pick, but there's no other than you. I mean, you're the main man. You're my captain. But Graeme, thanks for being here. Let's kick off straight away with the SA20, the Betway SA20. What a huge success! I was lucky to be a part of it, Mr. Night Watchman. We were there. The crowds were in. The people were excited. The kids were watching. Were you happy with the end result?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was surreal. It was so much work went into it, and we hoped that we could rejuvenate cricket in this country. I think it's been through a really challenging period, embroiled in politics and dramas, and we wanted to put cricket front and centre, as a core product, and then hopefully create something that the fans wanted to be a part of. And you can do all the prep, you can do all the work, but when you start to see the people, streaming into the stands, I remember that first week flying around, being at every stadium for the first game, seeing the fans going crazy and having such fun. I mean, that was goosebump moments, really. As you say, as time went on, the amount of parents that spoke about their kids wanting to be at games, being on the grass embankments, experiencing cricket, seeing some of our domestic players who've never been recognised before will start to become heroes with the kids and stuff. There's so many positive stories that came out of year one.
Yeah, I know what the answer is going to be, but I want to quickly touch on this little controversial point. Will we ever see Indian players in any other leagues, do you think, or was that an absolute no-go while we're on this planet?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I think the thing is, then I get asked that question a lot, especially from Indian journalists. But I think the BCCI have got a policy over their players at the moment, and I think we're perfectly suited if that policy changes. We have a good relationship with the BCCI. We engage with them a lot, so I think that if that ever changes, we'll be perfectly suited to be able to facilitate, and we would love to have Indian players as well. I think some quality, game changers, talents in the world that our fans would love to see. But yeah, at the moment, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. And all due respect to the BCCI, I know they have their policies in place, but we can dream. And can you imagine seeing a Virat Kohli walking out for the Pretoria Capitals or for the Mumbai Indians, Cape Town, or any other teams in the future, or any other Indian players? It would be so amazing to watch them play.
And I'm really grateful that you've offered to pay his salary as well for the first season that he's going to be
Absolutely, whatever it takes. No, international flavour in T20 tournaments are crucial, and we had a very nice flavour of overseas players. Could we see more guys streaming in? I think it must be very tempting for some of the best players in the world to come to South Africa for 1 month. So one of the shortest T20 tournaments. There must be a lot of upside for them to come and have a bit of fun in SA.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I go back to when we were building Betway say 20, trying to, get international players to decide to come to South Africa wasn't the easiest. I mean, there'd been a couple of failed attempts. South African cricket probably lost a little bit of gravitas. There's other leagues in the world that, are established or were established. And we needed to, convince top talent that we were going to do something special. And I've always said I'm very grateful to those first, bunch of guys that pre-signed before we'd even signed our 6 teams that backed me and backed South African cricket to really get this off the ground. And I think that was showing that confidence was important. We were able to attract some really amazing names in season 1 on the international front. And the goal is now that we've shown what we're capable of. I think, the one thing that South Africa does have, it has 6 amazing stadiums. The fan base has shown, the vibe, the colours, the type of atmosphere that players can play in and be a part of. I think the versatility of all the different stadiums, the test of your skill around South Africa, and being a part of something special, I think is now, after season 1, the feedback we received from our international players was incredible. And hopefully that word will spread. I mean, it's always a challenge with FTPs every year in January trying to attract, but, we'll work on that. We're busy drafting our player regulations for season 2 now, and hopefully that'll be out soon.
Yeah, and it's a short tournament. I would certainly have really enjoyed a 4 or 5 week tournament, especially towards the back end of my career. So I think you've got the right format going there, and it's very special to see what happened. So with any challenge in the world or any challenge that someone faces, there's always something that doesn't go according to plan. Any stuff that we can work on, any future plans that you feel in certain areas we might be able to improve in?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there'll be a lot of improvement every year. I mean, if you think we only, once we closed the 6 teams, we had about 3-4 months to deliver everything that we needed to. So it's been a very frantic period, almost decisions on the go. And now we've got a period of time. Our 6 teams kind of got a lot of learnings from season 1 as well, on how they would want to improve, and so with us as well. I think we'll always be looking to increase our in-stadium fan engagement. How do we, improve the standard of the cricket on the field? What laws can we implement in the game that will take the game forward? So in our debriefs now with the teams, our partners, and sort of the internal SA20 team, you're always looking at areas that we can push the button. And it's not only about, being the best event in South Africa. Globally, we have big ambitions. We want to be the biggest cricket league outside India. We want to, be bringing international standard stuff to South Africa. How can we improve, the standards of our stadiums? All that sort of stuff of us will be on the table. So every year we would love people that are prepared to pay for a ticket, pay for that television channel, to experience SA20, to walk away with an incredible experience.
Yeah, and I was, obviously, for you who don't know, I was commentating in this tournament. I had a lot of fun. It's always easy to chat about cricket when the quality of cricket is right up there with some of the best cricket in the world. The thing that excited me the most, Graeme, is what it will mean to South African cricket in the future. We saw some changes in the coaching staff in the recent series, which is exciting. Where are we at in Cricket South Africa, and what do you feel this tournament will mean for Cricket South Africa in the future, especially the youngsters?
Obviously, I mean, you want to see the curve always going upwards. I think you have to be honest. It's been a really challenging number of years in South African cricket. I think hopefully we've rejuvenated the fan. Cricket's got a much better energy. We saw our ladies do amazingly well in the World Cup as well. So for the first time in a long time, cricket's kind of, on everyone's lips. They feel good about it. And, to see our test team, play well against the West Indies the other day, there's always this level of improvement. And we want to see our national team, it's our, both men and women, it's the pinnacle of our game, doing well. I think that Betway SA20 will definitely bridge the gap between domestic and international cricket. I think the exposure the players got. I mean, how many of our domestic players have played in front of crowds like that? Probably never. So, exposure to pressure, exposure to top international talent, excellence on the field. You think about the coaching, the medical, the administration level that came into our game now over this 2-month, 3-month period. And hopefully that will just drive a level of performance across the board in South African cricket that will see our cricket go from strength to strength. And if that helps put 20, 30 top talented names on the table that, Shukri and Rob Walter and Enoch and the team can benefit from, then we'll be extremely happy.
That's it. I'm very glad you mentioned that, because that's exactly the thing that excited me the most. Is the opportunity for the youngsters to all of a sudden, out of nowhere, get like a global presence, and get picked up in different leagues perhaps, and obviously open up doors for the Proteas teams. So that's very exciting. Okay, all the serious business is off the table, Biffy. I'm gonna say goodbye to you soon, but I'm just gonna ask you your funniest moment in your career, your favorite memory, something you maybe want to touch on in the past of our playing days.
I got to dig into the archives. I was saying to someone the other day, I think I got hit in the head too many times. My memory's shot.
Do you remember?
Listen, I know you probably got 10 stories that you could tell. I know you lived for the pranks.
Yeah.
Obviously, I remember Kanpur, you climbing in and out of my window. When I told you I thought my room was haunted, I'll never forget that. Lying in bed late at night, and AB was climbing in and out of my window, moving couches and TVs and stuff. And what was the name of that hotel? I mean, it's been there forever. I think. Anyway, I'll never forget that. But Abbas, I think those are the things that stay with you for a long time. Yes, those wins around the world, traveling 2 months at a time in countries, trying to perform, and I think there was a 7-year period where us as a team never lost away from home. So those camaraderies, the ability to fight for each other, the good times we had together behind the scenes, it's those moments, celebrating those wins that always stay with you. Those are the memories that last the test of time, man.
Yeah, we had some great times together. Certainly a privilege to represent your country and to play cricket around the world. And it's certainly a privilege now to be a fan of cricket and to still be involved and to just watch the game grow and get stronger by the day. So, Biffy, thank you very much for being the very first guest on the 360 show. I'm going to say goodbye to you now. Until next time.
All the best, Abbas. Good luck with your new channel. I'm looking forward as your first guest to how you're going to spoil me. Is it a dinner? Is it a signed bat? Shirts. I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks, Biffy. Have a good one, eh?
Does he know that the next segment is quick singles, which is why we're dropping him off now?
Yeah, so you're going to have to leave us now. The next segment is quick singles. So unfortunately, you're not part of that one, eh?
Lungi, I think at least I know I'm still faster than you, boy.
Thanks, Graeme. Cheers.
Cheers. All righty. Thanks for tuning in there with Graeme Smith. It's great to hear his thoughts about the Betway SA20, about Cricket South Africa, and all the amazing stuff happening with cricket around the world. And I feel the exciting thing about that is you almost feel like the big powers around the cricketing world are joining forces to make cricket a better game for everyone to join in, So, Lungs, without a further ado, let's... and this is the one where we're going to be joining with you guys. I want some interaction. I want comments. Lungani is going to ask me some quick fire questions. This is called quick singles.
Quick singles, yeah. AB, I've trawled through social media on the back of the last couple of streams that we did and picked out some of the best ones. But obviously, we want our viewers around the world to keep on sending, commenting, so we know which ones they want to talk about in the next one. But for this week, let's go with if you could play any other sport professionally, what would it be?
Most definitely golf. I absolutely love the game since I think I picked up my first golf club when I was about 3 years old. So I think it's intense. Individual sports are not easy. It's a lot of mental challenges that you have to face. And you can see that all the players out there really battling, going through ups and downs, like in life. But golf is something that really excites me. I love playing golf. Just feel free out there, and such a beautiful game.
A lot of people in India want to know what superpower, if you could have a superpower, what would that be? And why?
That is a tough one. I'd say I would like to read people's minds, but if you play a game long enough, you start reading people's minds anyway, so it's actually a silly one, that. But if I could read my wife's mind maybe and figure out what she's thinking all the time, that would help.
You obviously a big muso, but what is the best concert that you've ever been to in the world?
Yeah, so it's a close call between... We went to the United States of America, my wife and I, a few years back, and we went to Chicago to watch John Mayer live. Inner Forest. He's one of the best artists out there. Simply a genius when it comes to playing guitar. Very unique voice. He was amazing, but a very big favorite of mine is Jason Mraz, which you watched the Radio City Hall in New York. And that was an amazing experience. So the two of them, I'd say, was right up there. We also watched Billy Joel at the Madison Square Garden. But I had to pick one. So let's go with John Mayer, Chicago.
Okay. There was a question about the craziest thing you've done, but obviously you've told us about skiing on red slopes, so we know that's the craziest thing you've done
100%,
lately.
the scariest thing of my life.
Sports documentaries, or if you stream, because you've got a bit more time on your hands these days, what's your favorite thing to watch, or the favorite thing that you've watched recently?
Yeah, the best sports documentary I've watched, and it's not a recent one, it's not fresh, but The Last Dance with Michael Jordan and his team. What they achieved back in the day was absolutely incredible. I just love the confidence. You can see, I love following sports people when they're on top of their games. And obviously at that time, Michael was on top of his game. Tiger Woods in his heyday, Federer, Djokovic, Nadal in form is something I just admire. I love watching sports people at the top of their game. So The Last Dance is probably my favorite documentary, and the best sports documentary I've ever watched.
Awesome. Obviously, there's a lot of cricket-related questions, so I'm going to switch quickly to things in the dressing room and things out in the middle. Who's your favorite cricketer of all time? I know you're a lot of people's favorite cricketer, but who's yours?
It'll be obviously blatantly obvious for me to go with one of my teammates. And there are lots of them: Boucher, Callis, Smith, Pollock, Ntini. I played with some absolute rock star cricketers in the day, especially when I was growing up as a youngster. But in the opposition side, I would say Andrew Flintoff is my favourite cricketer of all time. I love all-rounders. I love people who can contribute with both bat and ball. And I love people or players with big match temperament. And Freddie Flintoff was certainly a guy with BMT. When the team needed him most, he was there to stand up for his guys. So loved watching him play.
And your absolute go-to cricket shot under pressure?
Yeah, that's changed throughout my career, you know. Almost like we're going through segments here now. Different segments in my career where the straight drive was good, the square cut early on in my career. Then I realized I had to work on tightening up. Then just a normal defensive shot became my favorite because I felt like I couldn't get out. And then going into the T20s and IPL, I started evolving and getting some new shots. And that changed from a lap shot to the front of square pull, the lofted cover drive, especially to spinners, hitting them over covers for six. So that changed. If I had to pick one, I would say getting on my one knee. You saw the intro video. That's a shot I'm known for around the world. So I'd say when I pulled that one off, it was most enjoyable.
Okay, we're calling these quick singles. I'm going to have to tighten you on time next time because you're talking as long as Graeme Smith.
I'll have to explain.
But the last one is your favorite cricketing memory, whether it's a match or a particular moment in a match.
I'd say my final test match for South Africa, that final test series against Australia, finishing off at the Wanderers with a 3-1 win. Obviously, there are lots of controversies that happened in that series, but I scored a very nice 100 to get us back to 1-1 in Port Elizabeth and sort of turn the momentum with the guys and to get us the upper hand going into those last two test matches. My favourite series, and that was my favourite knock. Yeah.
I'm glad you finished in Australia because that's fair enough, because we're now going to move into some proper serious cricket conversations on the Fair Play Super Over, and I want to actually stay with Australia. Who are currently in India at the moment, and they've got a fascinating final test coming up in Ahmedabad. Great comeback from them in the third test. Steve Smith back as captain because Pat Cummins had to go home. What do you think of Australia's chances and the way they've been able to come back in that series?
Yeah, it's been an amazing series, and welcome to the Super Over, the Fair Play Super Over. I hope you have fun with this one. It's more serious, more cricket-related stuff. And Lungi just touched on the Aussie-India series. What a fantastic series. It's been incredible to see Australia come back. I'm not surprised, but what I am surprised about is India leading 2-0 in a series. Normally, the law of averages and stats tell you no one comes back from that. So, very impressed with the Aussie performance, pulling it back from 2-0 down to 2-1. They're going to the final test match now in Ahmedabad. They're expecting 90,000+ people to join in the Test match, which is incredible. I think that's breaking some records. And yes, Pat Cummins not playing in that Test match. Steve Smith back into the captaincy. It is interesting. I would stick with Cummins for the future, but I don't think Australia will lose out having Steve Smith and a leading. He's a guy who leads by example. He's a nitty-gritty kind of guy, mentally very tough. It's going to be a great test finale.
One of the key players for Australia is Travis Head and the way that he's played. You've also played in India where sometimes you've had to survive. You batted out today with Hash, but you've also been on the front foot. Just how difficult is it to switch from first gear to fifth gear and take the game to an Indian team on turning tracks?
Yeah, it depends what track you're playing on, and I think it's a little bit different in Ahmedabad. From what I remember, my last Test match I played there, the first 2 hours the ball was swinging, it was nipping around. I think we bowled out India for 78, if I remember correctly. So it's not a dead cert when the toss and bat first. It's a little bit different to your normal. Depends what the wicket looked like. Obviously, wickets change from year to year, season to season. But what I do remember, it's one of the wickets that gives you enough with that new ball to nick some players off. So it's going to be an interesting Test match to watch. And the way to play spin there, you have to be attacking. You can't allow the spinners, Ashwin, Jadeja, and the likes of Akshar Patel. In the Aussie side, Lyon, and they've got some new faces there, Kuderman. Anyway, if you play spin, you let them bowl to you on turning tracks, you're walking wicket. So you'd see guys like Travis Head, some of the Indian batters, why they do well is they always have intent and they take it to the bowlers. Without taking too much risk, I feel they always show intent.
Okay, we've spoken about the Aussies. Let's touch on that Indian team. One man who's not fired yet but has looked in decent touch is Virat Kohli. Do you expect a big performance from Virat in that final test?
He's been a little bit unlucky in this series so far. So it's nice to see him moving well. I see he's hungry. And that's what I always look for with Virat. When I played against him and with him, I could always see that spark in his eye. And when that's there, it means trouble for the opposition. I'm seeing that at the moment. He's been unlucky, which sort of makes that hunger even more. I'm excited to watch him play. I think this wicket's going to suit him well. A little bit of more of a conventional wicket where the seam bowlers are in play. He loves that. He loves the all-round challenge with spin and seam and to show that he's the complete batter, which he is. So I'm looking forward to a big 100 from him.
You touched on Ravi Jadeja and Ravi Ashwin. You faced them at their peak in India. There's lots of bowling combinations around the world. Broad, Anderson, McGrath, Warne, Steyn, Tini over the years. But how hard is that duo to face when they're firing?
They're completely different bowlers. That's the tough side of the task. Jadu, very flat, straight at the wickets, very competitive player. And those are the kind of guys that always threatens the batters. The guys that are in your face, you know he's there to get you out. He's not a guy that's just going to come on and bowl. And you can immediately feel when a bowler is just there to bowl his overs. Jadu and Ashwin, both completely different bowlers, but both very competitive. They have almost this healthy competition going between them as well. They want to be the guy. Jadu wants to be the guy to get 5. Ashwin wants to be the guy to get 5. So it's a very healthy scenario for the Indian spinners there, or the Indian team, to have two spinners like that, world class, both of them. Ashwin slower through the air with all the variation, very smart. You can look at him change his field placings all the time, and just very, very tough. The both of them ask questions all the time.
Who wins the fourth test?
It's a tough one, and what I do like about this test match, I don't think it's going to come down to the toss. Not that the other three have done so, because I know that India won the toss and the last one batted first and it didn't work out. So it just shows you you can turn it around even if you lose the toss here. But I do think Ahmedabad gives you the best balanced wicket. So the toss is going to be out of it, and you're going to have your stuff together as a batter. You'll have to be able to play swing bowling, a little bit of nip with a new ball, and then to look after the spinners for the rest of the innings. I do feel India will be fine. I don't know if they're going to win. I'm not saying it's going to be a draw, but I don't think India's going to lose the series.
Okay, I can't let you go without talking about another test match that's starting this week. Mm-hmm. South Africa against the West Indies, second test. South Africa obviously won at Centurion. I've got one question. Aiden Markram and the way that he came back, we touched a bit on it with the key partnership with Graeme.
Yeah.
But how good is it to see him play the way that he played at Centurion?
And thanks to the SA20. That was his his sort of breakthrough tournament. He's been up and down with his form. He's one of my favorite players to watch. He really is. I do love watching him bat. I went on a lot about it with my commentating. And when he doesn't perform, it's almost frustrating. You get like anxious because you want this guy to do well because you need him in the team. The Proteas need him in all the formats, in all the teams to score hundreds. And that's what he's capable of, to be one of the best in the world. It's great to see him bat well again, that 100 in that first innings. He looked good again in the second innings. So I'm looking forward to watching him play. And I'm looking forward to watch someone like Themba Bavuma score runs in the next test. He also showed some form in that SA20, and I feel he's very close to scoring some big hundreds.
He joined a club that you're a part of getting a pair as captain. No. Well, we're here now. Tough gig to be captain and obviously start off with a pair, but it happens at cricket.
Yeah, I'll never forget mine. It's towards the back end of my career playing against England. I started very well in that series, feeling good. And all of a sudden, things started changing. And not nice to face Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad when they're on top of their games and you're not quite moving as well as always. That's what I felt at Supersport Park, my home ground as well. We won the test match, which is always a bonus. So it's not something that I lull on too much. If we lost that test match, it would have been even worse. But yes, it's something you take on the chin, you move on, and then you try to become a better player after that.
And who wins that second test at the Wanderers?
I think South Africa playing at the Bull Ring. We get our home crowd behind us, and I feel we're going to be fine. There's enough experience there. Our bowling attack sharp. We'll have to watch out for the West Indies bowling attack. That's never been their problem. I know in the batting department they're a little bit inexperienced, but if they put runs on the board, they might put us under pressure. So let's see what happens.
Okay, I'm going to have to push you on the next round of quick singles because obviously you're dawdling in between the wickets, but I'm going to let you wrap up for this first episode of the 360 show, Abbas.
Happy days. Thank you very much for joining us. I think that's a wrap. Let us know in the comments what you want to hear. As you realize now, we follow 4 segments to cover a little bit of everything: the new ball, the key partnerships, the quick singles, and the fair play super over, which is more serious. And I'll dive a little bit deeper into the cricketing stuff next week, where I'll give you some tips about what I feel about individual players around the world, about teams and their performances. And also, which we didn't cover in this series or this episode, the Women's Premier League. It's still very fresh. 2 weeks from now, I'll be covering a little bit more about that. Thanks for joining the very first 360 show, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday.